for this lesson, we are going to practice using the lasso tools, specifically the magnetic lasso tool and the original lasso tool. In order to do this, we're going to do an activity. And the activity is that, let's just say we're making a piece of concept art and we don't want to spend a lot of time drawing, or maybe you don't have access to people who draw. So we're just going to use photo bashing instead. So my goal using the lasso tools is to take this really cool cityscape that we have here. I wanted to kind of present a more sci-fi thing. So what I want to do is I actually want to take this sky and I want this more Cosmo-like photo to be in the background instead of this original sky. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the lasso tool to cut out this city scene. So let's get started. We're going to go to the top left here, and you're going to just hold down and select magnetic lasso tool. And what's going to be handy here is that the magnetic lasso tool basically reads the image you have here and is able to define its selection through what it sees. So we're going to hopefully be able to just collect all of this silhouette and be for our copy. So in order to get started, we just click, and no need to hold down. And what you're going to do is just very slowly trace along the city silhouette. Now, the magnetic lasso tool tends to be more successful when you have a very clear image. When you're trying to get more images out of a more complicated one, then you may have to default more to using the other lasso tools. But for clear silhouettes like this city landscape, I would highly suggest taking advantage of the magnetic lasso tool. And you'll see even here, sometimes it just doesn't pick up those details. And so that's what happens, is that it's the lasso tool, the magnetic one. It works really well when there's a very clear silhouette, but sometimes you can get some details lost, which is totally fine because then we can always go back and grab them. So you see here, I'm getting pretty much the gist of the city silhouette. It's going to help me a lot. There we go. You even see that you can pick up on those bumps. Then I'm just going to go to this corner, click on it. And then, yeah, you'll see as I'm trying to make this selection, there's some details that is not being able to get picked up. But it's okay. So pretty much what you want to do is circle around. You can either always just double click to finish your selection, or you can just wait until you get to the original point where you started, and you should see a little dot at the bottom right of the little icon there. So go ahead and click. You're going to see we have this selection. And we kind of missed some details here, so let's try and pick that up. So what we'll do is that we're going to click again on the lasso tool, select this time, and then this is important. In order to add on to the selection you already have, you want to make sure to hold down the shift button. And then you'll see here that you'll see the lasso icon, but then you'll also see a little plus sign at the bottom right. And that signifies that whatever you're about to select will be incorporated into the selection you have at the moment. So I'm just going to hold it down, and with the freehand lasso tool, what that happens is that I'm going to be able to just hold down my mouse and make a selection. And so what we can do here is that, let's say we want to pick up all this stuff at the bottom that didn't get selected. We're going to hold and then just really easily circle around. And then when I let go of my mouse, it's going to make that selection for me on top of the selection that I already have. So let's just finish that here. Let's get that little area up here that got list. So I'm still holding down shift to maintain my selection. Get this area over here. All right. So what I typically will do in this situation is then just hold down the Command C, and that's going to copy the image I have selected. The other thing I can do is just go to Edit and go press the copy button here. Copy. It's going to copy the selection I just made. So what I want you to do after this then is go over to the space.jpg. And all we're going to do is go to Edit, Paste. And there we go. now we have our cityscape image over the spatial image that we have. So as you can see, right, it's starting to look a lot more cool and sci-fi. So that's the basic gist of how to use the lasso tool and the magnetic tool. Using the cityscape image as well as the space image in the background, that's just a basic example of how you can use the lasso tools. Just so we can get a little bit more experience with the regular lasso tool, let's, for the sake of creativity, let's say we just want to put a giant bunny in the background there. That this is a sci-fi game with an evil giant bunny in the background. That's your main boss. Creativity, right? So we're going to go to our bunny image here, and this is going to help us actually get a good amount of practice with the lasso tool. So what I want to do is first, let's just double click this layer so we can edit it. And we don't need all of this stuff, right? We don't need this grass, we don't need this background. So what we want to do is take our lasso tool, and you'll see with the magnetic lasso tool, because of the fur and everything like that, it may get a little bit confused. You'll see that, right, it's starting to, it gets some of the information, and we can use that, but it tends to break up, and sometimes it's just more frustrating. So let's not use that. Let's practice using the original lasso tool. So I'm going to take this, and with the original lasso tool, just remember to hold down when you are making the selection. So we're going to start here at the bottom, and we'll just work our way up. You'll see that this is the freehand way to do it as opposed to the magnetic way to do it. So while it is a little bit tough to do it freehand, it can give you a little bit more control and doesn't leave it all to the magnetic lasso tool to make the decisions. And you can try and do this all in one go, but usually what I do, just because my hand can get tired, is that I'll just kind of start dragging down, and then you can see I have my selection. And what I'll just do at this point then is just hold down Shift so I can continue making my selection, just so I can give myself a break. So we'll just start, and it lets you basically make your selection process. You makes it so you can just kind of break it up in pieces, your sessions. So it's not so much pressure on just getting it the first time. And so as I'm doing this, I'm just holding down Shift the entire time as I'm making my selections. There we go. And for the sake of this exercise, you know, I just kind of chose the giant bunny because why not? But if you want to do something else, like if you want to do something like a spaceship or even another animal, feel free to. What's important just to know about the lasso tool is that it's good for more organic shapes. So for buildings or landscapes, like what we did in the previous video, it's good to either use the magnetic lasso tool or even the polygonal tool, lasso tool, because that allows for straight shapes. But for more organic shapes like this bunny, it's nice to have the freehand ability. All right, so let's go a little bit more. And we have our selection there. So what we're going to do here now is just like we did with the last cityscape, we're going to go to Edit, Copy. Going to go back to our space image here. Let's make sure that we paste below the image, below the cityscape image here. I'm going to go on the background and just simply go Edit, Paste. And sometimes in this case, it pasted right here, so you can't see it right now, but you see that we have it in our layer. So what you're going to do is just go to the Move button here. Just kind of drag that out, and there is our bunny. And yeah, you see that there's kind of a difference is that with this cityscape originally, had a very clear silhouette, so it was really easy for the magnetic tool to pick it up, and then we didn't have to rely on trying to be so exact with our freehand lasso tool. But with the bunny, it was actually a bit more convenient to use the freehand lasso tool. So it's really up to you when you want to use each lasso tool, but I would say you should use the original freehand lasso tool for more organic shapes, while the magnetic lasso tool or the polygonal lasso tool for more defined shapes or defined silhouettes or stuff like buildings, etc.